There are many things that could be said about the heart, and you probably know many of them. But I want to make it clear from the start that this video is only suitable for the crazy about cooking. All the rest you can leave, because I'm going to clarify some names that refer to the cardiac function, which I believe are little known to you. And to compensate for everyone's patience and perseverance, in the end, we'll gather some pearls. Jean-Marc Guespy observes that the heart is given 4 names or expressions in Chinese medicine, and we should differentiate them because otherwise we are confusing different zhang, organs. What I'm going to explain next is the result of personal work synthesizing a multitude of sources, because the name, concepts and involved Zhangfu were getting intertwined. I only hope it serves as a principle of clarification. The first name for the cardiac function is Xinjun, source of life and son of the empire. This term refers to the imperial fire and corresponds to the heart, Xin. The Xinjun function, known as the source of life or son of the empire, has the Shen as its spiritual center. In the video where we talk about the Wuxing, the 5 agents belonging to this reproduction list, we explained that for the principle of life to incarnate, it needs the mediation of a center. This center of man is the place from which everything comes and to which everything returns. Hence the central function that the heart occupies in the Wuxing. Jean-Marc Guespy tells us that, like the universe, man is centered, and that each human being has a center that is exclusive and appropriate for their life. According to Brigitte Lacourte, our center is the knot of universality in us, and could be defined as the intersection between 2 lines, that plate where events are accepted and organized. But beyond any other zhang, what the heart is an empty center, a stable possibility of transmutation, circulation and transformation. It is Xinjun that allows the permanence of an idea of being, of its mental and emotional activity. It is Xinjun what allows us to be. I insist, the empty center of the heart is what allows us to be and exist. Claude Larrey said that the heart open upwards is permanently penetrated by descending influences and communicates through the spirits with heaven. This empty locus of the heart, sovereign of being, pivot of life, is the only possible place for the spirits. The heart, Xin, is the guarantee of the unity and existence of person. In Suen 23 and 62, it is repeated that the heart treasures the spirit, Shen, or houses the spirits, Shen. It is these vibrations of the Shen that, reflected in the mirror that is our heart, become our own Shen. Elisabeth Rochat de la Vallée goes further. This center is a locus, a place of fusion with the center of the world. First with the principle, unity, but also with the Shen of all beings in the universe. And she says a truly beautiful thing. Within us is the memory of the lost unity. This is our engine for growth, but also of our suffering. And she affirms that fusion is the only process that allows us to rediscover, for a moment, unity. Every man, necessarily dual in manifestation, is composed by 2 beings, a being which is universal and an ego which is specific. Thus, with the heart Xinjun in harmony and well-centered, man is in his correct position between heaven and earth. In this sense, the heart has a Ren function to take charge of the responsibility of the other aspects of the human being. Yes, the same Ren ideogram as Ren Mai, which means taking charge. But how does the heart carry out its functions? François Cheng tells us, the Son of Heaven does not govern, he has ministers to do so. Among the functions of the viscera as administrators of an empire, the heart is the emperor, the representative of the center. It manages our body in an action of mediating presence without acting directly. To the extent that there is a heart, the profound movements of being capable of guiding an individual through life can exist. And it is thanks to this central function that the other functions attributed to the heart are possible. Lao Tzu said, "The wise are free from all repetition in their hearts." Jean-Marc Issalet formulates the idea in this way: an empty heart is the source of spontaneous ethics and morals, whose consciousness is not only liberated from the fixations of habit, but also never ceases to evacuate its objects of consciousness, having welcomed them with meaning and tasted them in a landscape of increasing vastness. The second term referring to the heart is Xinshu or Xinzhu. It can be translated as that by which the heart commands. In this sense, Xinzhu is also known as Son of Heaven or the Mirror of Shen. In fact, this term does not refer to the heart itself, but to Xinbaoluo, unfortunately translated as pericardium. The Xinzhu function or Xinshu function, that by which the heart commands, and represented by Xinbaoluo, possesses a jing that nourishes the imperial fire. Electra Pelufo tells us that it is the master capable of making the weight of its presence and authority felt through select manifestations, and that when talking about Xinbaoluo in this Xinzhu function, reference is made to this governance that occurs through qi and blood. Lao Tzu, in chapter 55, states, "The heart activates the breaths." Also, Shi Ji 25 asserts that the spirits activate the breaths, and the breaths qi determine the forms. Therefore, in Qigong practice, it is the mental and inner disposition that guide qi and body movements. Hence, Neijing tells us, if Shen is strong, the body will be vigorous, and if Shen is dispersed, the body will be weak. Jean-Marc Issalet affirms that communication is the primary function of qi. The clear qi of sensory organs, termed the orifices of the heart, depends on it. Guanzi had already stated, when a stable heart is in a central position, the ear and eye, that is, yin reception, yang emission, are clear and penetrating. Thus, the heart is linked to all upper orifices through Xinbaoluo. Xinshu or Xinzhu integrates and adjusts the set of sensation and perceptions, and also allows sensitivity, that oscillation between the most intimate and the exterior, which includes tactile sense. Xinshu also expresses the receptivity of Shen. Thus, through Xinbaoluo, the heart establishes communications with the other organic instances. Blood carries the excellence of its messages. Before continuing with this function, we will clarify some nuances between Xinjun, which was the first, the imperial fire, and Xinshu or Xinzhu, belonging to Xinbaoluo. Su Wen states, the heart, Xinjun, has the role of master and lord. From it comes the radiance, termed Shengming, Ming meaning luminous. And Elisabeth Rochat de la Vallée specifies that the character Jun is common to the ideograms that designate the imperial fire and the ministerial fire. This sinologist affirms that Jun is the Lord upon whom no one dares to lift their eyes. Hidden in the depths of his palace, in the center of the world, his presence and authority are perceived everywhere, profoundly determining the good or bad fortune to the entire country. She also says that the master is capable of making his weight and authority felt through select manifestations. And therefore, when talking about Xinbaoluo in its Xinshu function, reference is made to this governance that occurs through qi and blood, shui. Thus, concretely, Xinbaoluo coordinates regular distribution, that is, the rhythm of breathing, the blood circulating, and energy. Suwen 8 asserts, when the master expands his light, the inferiors are peaceful. Such maintenance of life ensures the longevity from generation to generation, and the empire under heaven shines brightly. But if the master does not expand his light, the 12 charges are in danger. This causes the closure and blockage of the pathways and orifices. The interruption of communication severely affects the body. Such a way of sustaining life is catastrophic. And in the empire under heaven, even the ancestral lines are endangered. Beware of it. Elisabeth Rochat de la Vallée explains that when in Suwen 25, Emperor Huangdi asked the reasons for the final chaos leading to physical death, Qibo's response is simple. The spirits cease to operate. Hence, vital functions, when the master does not make his presence felt, irreversibly disorganize. But what does this mean regarding the heart in relation to the entire body? Mencius chapter 7 clarifies, that which the virtuous man considers as his nature, the sense of the human, the just, the rights, discernment, is rooted in the heart, but radiates onto the face, runs through the entire spinal cord and expands into the four limbs through which, without any need for speech, it becomes transparent. Rochat de la Vallée reflects that there is no discontinuity between the heart that moves towards an increasingly rooted authenticity and that blood that extends into the limbs and drives them to move spontaneously in a harmonious and appropriate way. Thus, the continuity between the visible on the body as a whole and the invisible spiritual is assured in and by the heart. And I say that it is for this reason too that the observation of our patients should not only be in what they say, but how they say it too, how they enter the consultation room, how they sit, how they move, and all that you perceive from them, because they are already expressing what's happening deeply, and that's what we should try to diagnose. But let's move a little bit further into the specifics. This Xinshu or Xinzhu function commands the mai, the blood vessels. Let's remember that the term mai refers both to the blood vessels and pulses, and their functions are not limited to propelling blood, but also to maintaining it within certain limits. Neijing tells us blood circulates continuously in a circle and never stops. And Nguyen Van Gy said that Qi is the true engine of blood circulation, because it is what makes the heart beat. It is what channels the bloodstream of the cardiovascular system and ensures the circulation of the entire organism. But Rochat de la Vallée specifies that it is Xinshu, Xinbaoluo or pericardium, that supervises and controls the passages of blood. We know that the lung does not directly participate in the blood shui. It only conducts it. And the always insightful Kespi tells us that it is necessary for the Jing cosmic vertical lines to incarnate into a body. And this is the role of the Mai, of the vessels, which, belonging to an individual, color them with their Xing, their essential nature. So, Xinshu or Xinzhu not only commands the Mai, but also governs the blood, coordinating its formation, harmonizing it, and governing the entire circulatory system and cardiovascular dynamics, both in the pericardial and coronary areas, and in adapting the heart rate and vasomotricity to the needs of the entire body. But what happens with the blood? Well, the blood is the support of our specificity and our chromosomal characteristics. Rachel de la Vallée explains that the blood is different from the rest of the bodily fluids because it is the messenger of the spirits, the carrier of consciousness. It's not that the spirits circulate through it as if they were carried particles, but their influences circulate because the blood circulates. So when qi and shui are capable of penetrating everywhere without obstruction or imbalance, this perfect harmony between them is nothing other than spiritual life. Then there are the spirits and the immediate relationship with the heart as their abode. That is, the relationship between the center and periphery via shui, the blood. We know that blood grants life because of its capacity to warm and its nutritive principles, but also due to the presence of the spirits within it. And we also know that it circulates through the Mai and that these vessels orientate and animate all vital circulations. The third term referring to the functions of the heart is Xinbaoluo. It's about the network that surrounds and nurtures the heart, protecting it. This function is performed by the same named organ, unfortunately translated as pericardium. The Xinbaoluo function has an anatomical jing that nourishes the blood and the Mai. As you know, Xin means heart, Bao to encase, contain, or take charge, and that's why it's the ideogram that describes the uterus, but also the full pericardium. And Luo means net, connections, connect. There is, around the heart, a dual function develops: protection on one side and relation to the other, thanks to this Xinbaoluo function of protecting, nourishing, and communicating. To begin with, Tai Su affirms, outside the heart are fats, Gao, that envelop the heart. They are called heart protectors, Xinbaoluo. And Rachel de la Vallée explains how Xinbaoluo protects the heart, moderating emotions before they reach the emperor. Other authors add something very interesting, that the heart is protected by Xinbaoluo, pericardium, but also by its associated fu, viscera, which is small intestine. Ma Che states, perverse energy cannot reach the heart because it is an imperial organ. It remains in small intestine where it materializes. Let's remember here the function of the fu, the viscera, to materialize the designs of the organs. But of course, as Elisabeth Rachel de la Vallée says, a sovereign must be protected from all aggression, but must also be related to everything it dominates. And this is the other function, the communication that Xinbaoluo performs for the heart. Its connection for communication are the circulation and the propagation far away, carrying shui and become visible in the mai, in the blood conduits that allow the presence of the shen. And I say this in plural, throughout the body, in the essences, jing of the brain and in the upper orifices. Nguyen Van Gogh also said, Xinbaoluo designates an important energetic network, extremely dense, in the depth of the thorax of secondary vessels called Xinbaoluo, which gather in Shanzhong, Renmai 17. Do you see the connection of everything? So, what resonates about the Jingtheng, the main meridian, or Xinbaoluo? When we think about this meridian, we have to think about the emotional contact with others, the openness to others, the expression of feelings, the communication of what I am conscious of, which, even though it comes from the heart, is expressed through Xinbaoluo. And also this in sexuality. There are acupoints on the Xinbaoluo meridian in intimate relation to sexual functions. In other words, let's not only think about the kidney and Chongmai in sexuality, there are also other actors involved in it. Finally, there's a fourth term that defines the cardiac function, which is Shanzhong, in the center of the chest. It corresponds to the function minister of the heart, administrator or governor. This central thoracic function is performed jointly by the lung and pericardium, zhang, Xinbaoluo. And it has a sensory jing, essence, which nourishes the tongue and allows speech. The simultaneous and harmonized governance of lung and Xinbaoluo in the Shanzhong area is defined by two Xinshu texts, which in fact do not tell us the same thing. On one hand, Xinshu 33 says, Shanzhong is the sea of breaths, qi high. It's clear that this is Renmai 17, which is the mu point of Xinbaoluo, but which is also intimately linked to the lung. However, in chapter 35, Xinshu asserts the region around Shanzhong, Renmai 70, is the palace of Xinbaoluo. Jean-Marc Guespy tells us that qi hai hosts the qi formed from breathing, zhong qi, and from nutrition, gu qi, once transformed. According to the French Ricci dictionary of the Chinese language, this ideogram, zhong, means temple of ancestors, ancestor, forefather, as well as master or foundation. So Shanzhong, in the center of the chest, collects all sensory information, both external through the sensory orifices of the heart and the proprioceptive information from the inside of the body. But it is also the center for emitting qi's reaction outward and toward the heart. Let's not forget that at all times we're discussing the sphere of cardiac function. In its emptiness, the heart centralizes and favors the propagation of what nests in its empty space through the body's fissures, via the rhythmic circulations of energy. I am aware I'm trying to attribute terms which are not so precisely defined either, because Elisabeth Rocha de la Vallée already tells us that within it, Shanzhong receives two other denominations, Xinjun and Xinbaoluo. Wow! So, This sinologist also asserts that Shanzhong is the splitting of the heart's potency and what is reflected in the complexion and eyes in Shenming. And on another note, Suan 8 says that the lung holds the office of minister and counselor. The control of rhythms proceeds from it. And of course, the difference between the functions of Shanzhong and those of the lung are difficult to establish, and luckily often not imposed. Both of them are assistants of the heart and are situated on high. In fact, the meridians that regulate the movements of blood and qi begin their diurnal cycle with the lung, but depend on the sea of qi in Shanzhong. I find it striking how, through the relationship of the lung with metal, the sphere of Ben Shenpo is confirmed again at the beginning of life. Not only in the incarnation, in the manifestation, but also in each cycle, at each heartbeat, at each breath, Po is presiding over new beginnings. And also remember the function we had already discussed on the lung in Dive's video addressing it, speaking about the waterways. We had discussed of the lung morning's audience, inaugurating each diurnal cycle of the main meridian's Jingzheng nictameral cycle. But in any case, Suan 8 insists on attributing both the rhythm of breaths to the lung and to Shanzhong the role of propagating throughout the economy the vivifying and mysterious presence of the heart and its spirits, through all circulations propelled from the upper jaw. It tells us the center of the chest, Shanzhong, has the function of a minister ambassador. From there arise joy and pleasures. Jean-Marc Guisalet comments that therefore Shanzhong is a passage from which the heart commands, and that thanks to this intermediary, an individual Shen can adjust its expression in the concrete through live rhythms, and that joy and jubilation arise from there expresses an optimal fullness modulated in which each wave expands life both with intensity and softness, thanks to the cadence with which the brightness of life is expressed from Shanzhong, spreading throughout the Jingmai, throughout the body. Such joy of living indicates true health, that is, the ability to open up to the outside without fear, and the ability to be praised or surprised without losing stability. We know that a yin emptiness of the heart generates restlessness and anxiety. But Jean-Marc Guisalet also says that a person with a yin emptiness of the heart can be an unexpressive or stereotyped individual. And this fantastic author gives us a gem. He tells that clinically, the difference between the heart and Xinbaoluo is that the heart usually causes symptoms in the Shen, but also cold symptoms. On the other hand, Xinbaoluo's pericardium's pathology usually generates heat and blood congestion, which in turn impacts the Shen.